Welcome to Tailblazers Talks. In this episode, we'll be discussing a term that has been gathering increased attention in the pet food industry, but that Tailblazers has been talking about for a long time. Let's talk species-appropriate diets. First, what is the definition of species-appropriate? Let's break it down, then build it back up definition by definition. Definition of species. A group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals capable of creating offspring. Definition of appropriate. Suitable or right for a particular situation or occasion. Definition of diet. Types of food that a person, animal, or community habitually eat. So adding it all together, it would be appropriate to say that a species-appropriate diet means any living group of organisms eating foods that are suitable for their particular situation, habitat, or biology. As I'm sure you've guessed, there isn't only a species appropriate for domestic pets. Every species in the world has a species-specific diet that is appropriate to them, including humans. That is why some species only live in certain parts of the world, because their diets are not supported in other climates. For instance, you would never naturally see a giraffe living in the Yukon. It just doesn't work for that species. But wild cats can thrive in almost every environment, from snow leopards living in minus 40 degrees Celsius to servals living in 23 degrees Celsius, with just a simple change in available prey. They each are of the same species, but thrive in different living situations. However, this is not a geography lesson, so let's continue on. Species-appropriate diet versus species-inappropriate diet. Let's discuss the difference between a species-appropriate diet and a species-inappropriate diet. Since we have already used them as an example, and they have recently had a large study done on them by Born Free USA, let's look at giraffes. Giraffes in the wild, in their natural habitat, are browsers, feeding predominantly on the leaves and stems of trees and shrubs, and consuming smaller, variable amounts of climbers, herbs, flowers, fruits, and bark. We would consider this a species-appropriate diet. In captivity, giraffes are fed cereal grain products, fruit and vegetables, sometimes in pellet form, which is approved by zoo officials, including veterinarians. This was noted to cause at least 48% of giraffes in captivity to be in poor to emaciated body condition at the time of death, and so many others to develop numerous diseases including obesity, fat atrophy, and dental decay. This diet would be what we would call species inappropriate. Let's analyze our domestic pets diet. You might be wondering, what can you compare the in the wild versus in captivity diet to for our domestic pets? Because not many domestic animals are living in the wild. Well, let me blow your mind. Earlier, it was said that a species is a group of living organisms consisting of similar characteristics capable of creating offspring. We know that domestic animals like house cats and dogs can reproduce as long as they're not fixed. But did you know that because of their extreme similarities, dogs and wolves can create offspring? Wolves and dogs are actually bred often to create the wolf dog. As well, house cats and specific wild cats are capable of creating offspring. Just to clarify, we are no way suggesting that a cougar and your Siamese can create offspring, but smaller wild cats and house cats can. House cats can be bred with the wild Asian leopard to create a Bengal, the wild African cat, the serval, to create a Savannah cat, and the jungle cat, an Asian and Middle Eastern wild cat, to create the Chosy. That's just a few examples. So what is a species-appropriate diet for our domesticated animals? Even if the animal has been domesticated, it is still a part of a species that needs to be fed an appropriate diet to thrive. In a way, we've become the zoo, keeping the animals in captivity and feeding them that way as well. Just because their home changed does not mean their biology changed. A wild cat, and your domestic cat as well, if it were allowed outside, would typically hunt and feed on a variety of small prey. A few include birds, mice, snakes, lizards, insects, and fish. They also occasionally steal eggs from birds' nests and eat grass to aid in digestion. So a species-appropriate diet is a raw diet using a whole prey model. Whole prey cat diets can usually be found to contain about 85 to 90% meat, 5% bone, 5% organ, and if the organs contained stomach contents, which in the wild they do, the cat is also getting a small amount of grasses, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, less than 1%, that their prey ate. A wolf typically hunts in a pack, but can hunt individually as well. When hunting in a pack, wolves will work together to take down larger prey, such as elk, caribou, bison, and moose. Working alone, they'll hunt smaller prey, similar to that of a cat, like birds, snakes, lizards, fish, rabbits, and beavers. Unlike wild cats, wolves will scavenge for their food if it's absolutely necessary. This means that occasionally they'll eat other foods if they can find it, like seeds, grass, acorns, and berries, but this is not very often. They do usually eat the stomach contents of their prey like wild cats, though larger animals have larger stomachs, so there's more grazing material available for wolves to eat. This means the vegetables, grass, and fruit intake is higher than that of a wild cat in the form of tripe. Wolves are also more likely to ingest the larger animal bones, so their bone intake is higher. A species-appropriate diet for a domestic dog would consist of 75% to 80% meat, 10% bone, 5% organ, and 5% vegetables, and it would be a raw diet. Can you see how these appropriate diets are so different from what we're feeding our domesticated pets? And why would we need to feed animals so differently if they are so similar that they could breed naturally? We aren't suggesting that you teach your pet how to hunt, since raw diets like this are readily available to purchase and feed at local pet stores. Not to mention the safety of the product is much higher than that of catching prey in the wild. Your pet doesn't have to worry about parasites, counterattacks, and then also being prey themselves. Raw feeding is safe and is the most species-appropriate diet you could offer your pets. Analyzing the inappropriate diet. The pet food industry has changed drastically over the past 20 years, and although some people have been feeding their pets an appropriate and raw diet their entire lifetime of caring for animals, some people have never heard of it. We found the best-selling and most recommended pet foods for cats and dogs in 2022. The most recommended and best-selling cat food in 2022 is Hill Science Diet Adult Oral Care Dry Cat Food. The biggest concern that we have with this food is that it's a dry food. When cats are eating dry food, they are less likely to drink an appropriate amount of water. In the wild, all of their moisture needs would come from eating their prey. Not drinking an appropriate amount of water leads to the animal becoming dehydrated, and often they'll develop urinary crystals. Not to mention the plethora of other issues that come from a cat eating a diet so high in carbohydrates, which includes obesity and diabetes. The ingredient list on this food does start with chicken as the main ingredient, which is great. We always like to see real meat as the first ingredient, but then it goes into the not so good. These are the first three ingredients: chicken, brown rice, corn gluten meal. And together, they usually make up about 30 to 40% of the food. After meat, the next two ingredients are grains that cats in the wild would never eat unless it was part of the prey's stomach contents, and it would be 1% or less a part of their diet, not in the high 20s. For the reasons listed above, and many others, this is not a species-appropriate diet. Pet food companies are so convincing that we've been brainwashed into thinking that this is the best diet for a cat, and it's not even close. Though sadly, it's also not the worst. The best-selling pet food for dogs has a similar ingredient list. It's Purina Pro Plan Adult Complete Essentials Shredded Blend, chicken and rice dry dog food. This food is extremely similar to the cat food we analyzed above. The first three ingredients are chicken, rice, and whole grain wheat, which again is meat followed by two grains. Even though wolves are more likely to scavenge, rice and wheat are not regular parts of their diet. And if they happen to eat some, it wouldn't be near 20% of their diet. It would be more like 1 to 2%. These diets are considered species inappropriate because they are not what either species would choose to feed on habitually, and it does not suit their biological needs. Our body's health starts with our diet. How can we expect any species to be healthy if they're not getting the foods their body is designed to eat or needs to be healthy? Thank you for watching our video. We hope that we've helped you understand the difference between species-appropriate and species-inappropriate diet. If you're currently feeding an inappropriate diet, we hope we've been able to help you see what your pet is missing so you can start feeding them an appropriate diet and start your companion animal on their first steps to a healthy, vibrant lifestyle. Your companion animals are depending on you. It's time. Visit a Tailblazers location near you and experience the benefits of your pets being Tailblazers healthy.